1992, Bellevue, Washington. The public school system abuses boys. From kindergarten on, boys are subjected to the frustration of having to compete with girls who, in that age group, generally have superior verbal and motor skills. Quote, as long as education is principally an I talk, you listen affair, it will be biased toward the technique of learning which suits the female brain up to a certain age, close quote. And Moore and David Jessel, Brain Sex. Additionally, boys often suffer the subtle verbal assaults of female teachers and girls. By definition, that's abuse. Quote, abuse is defined as any behavior that is designed to control and subjugate another human being through the use of fear, humiliation, and verbal or physical assaults. In other words, you don't have to be hit to be abused, close quote. Dr. Susan Forward and Joan Torres, Men Who Hate Women and the Women Who Love Them. These verbal attacks are seldom loud and often deceptively quiet. Johnny, you wouldn't want us to think you're a bad boy, would you? To a child, approval can be of such vital importance that the implication of disapproval can be devastating. By the time they're 18, many men have suffered so much abuse in the highly feminized educational environment that they hurl themselves into the social institutions that celebrate their pain. Under such conditions, the critical question should not be why are some men sexual predators, but how is it that most men are not? One common feminist assertion is most child molesters are men, and most of their victims are girls. Whether they're right about this or not is not important. Fundamentally, the genders of the victim and the perpetrator are utterly irrelevant. All that really matters is helping today's victims and preventing future criminal acts. Feminists, however, have reduced this entire issue to an us versus men diatribe, thereby making it necessary for us to look at this within the context of gender. Note, starting October 2011, I began archiving headlines about women who were arrested or convicted of violent crimes, including rape and sexual assault. The reports sometimes mention that the rate of reported rape and sexual assault by women is increasing. Does this reflect any actual increase, or does it reflect a growing sensitivity to the fact that when a woman has sex with a boy, in most cases it leaves deep and enduring emotional scars and truly is an egregious crime? Continuing, in Abused Boys, the Neglected Victims of Sexual Abuse, Mick Hunter notes that, quote, society tends to view the sexual offenses of women as relatively insignificant, close quote. With such a bias working against them, it's easy to see how many social scientists may overlook the offenses of women. Quote, it's estimated that women make up 5% of the perpetrators in all cases of abuse of girls and 20% in the abuse of boys, close quote. Mick Hunter, Abused Boys. Note, I've always suspected it's much higher. I was subjected to sexual abuse as a child, and my first molester was my babysitter, a neighbor girl. But our society tends to think boys who are abused by women are lucky, while girls who have sex with men are victims. Consequently, we ignore male victims, praise female sexual predators, and boys who don't enjoy their molestation are, as Mick Hunter put it, quote, likely to question their masculinity or sexual orientation, close quote. Overshadowed by the feminist diatribes against men, Mick Hunter observes that this problem is more prevalent than many realize. Quote, a study done by the Canadian government and by the Canadian Gallup polls interviewed 2,000 people of various ages and found that 1/3 of the males had experienced some type of sexual abuse as a child, close quote. What this means is during the past 20-odd years, while feminists spouted their self-serving anti-male rhetoric about the sexual nature of men, almost 100,000 American boys were being victimized each year by both male and female predators. Newspapers, radio, and TV have sensationalized the criminal acts of men, but few have been willing to reveal either the extent or the depth of the suffering silently endured by millions of men. Feminist attacks have only added to their burden with lurid portrayals of men as sexual predators. For the Backlash at Backlash.com, my name is Rod Van Mecklin.